Anxiety looks different for everyone. For me, it didn't look just like anxiety. It showed up on top of symptoms that I already had. Like I would already be sick, or dizzy. But when anxiety hit, it would be 10 times worse. And it wasn't just in my head, it was my body remembering trauma. I remember a moment where I had to pull to the side of the road, and it wasn't just the fact that I was feeling dizzy. Anxiety crept up and made me feel like I was, going to pass out. Like I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my brain. Like it was cutting off my breath, you know, and made me feel like I was going to pass out, while my kids were in the car. And of course, that in itself made, the anxiety even worse, knowing that my kids were in the car with me. It's crazy because I had already started healing. So I had already, got back, with normal everyday functions, driving and things like that. And then all of a sudden, the anxiety just hit out of the nowhere. And that's the thing about anxiety. It just shows up out of the nowhere. It does not need an invitation. It will invite itself. So what helped me start to realize I was dealing with anxiety was that my symptoms were starting to ease up. And so I wasn't feeling as bad. Everything wasn't fully gone, but definitely easing up a lot. And while all those things did not fully disappear, they started easing up enough for me to pay attention to the signs and pay attention to what was still lingering. It was a more emotional, mental, it was anxiety. I would literally wake up sometimes expecting the worst, expecting that something was going to happen, that something was going to go wrong that day. And like as soon as I had to drive somewhere or like take the kids to school, I started feeling sick like moments before I began to drive. And that anticipation would just trigger something in my body all over again. And I remember feeling like, okay, that spinning feeling, that dizziness feeling, like that's gone. It's subsided, but I still would feel scared. Or I would walk better, you know what I'm saying? Or I would go work out or exercise or do different things that, I had not been able to do before. But it's like I kept bracing myself like something was gonna happen to go wrong. And so when I would compare, like, okay, I'm not feeling those things anymore or as much, but yet I'm still feeling scared or petrified or, things like that. I knew it wasn't my body. I knew it wasn't fully the sickness anymore. I knew it was my mind. It was the anxiety. Like the entire time it had been sitting on top of everything else. It's just like an extra layer on top of everything else I was going through, literally causing everything to feel worse physically in my body. And it kept me in survival mode. Like my body was already trying to heal and get out of that anxious feeling, and out of the survival mode, but that anxiety kept pushing me right back into it. But once I recognized what it really was, that gave me some power. You know what I mean? It gave me power to identify what it was and call it out. And I remember my mom telling me that when she was going through remission from cancer, she would drive down this particular street. Now, she would be driving all over the place, but when she drove down this particular road, which led her to that facility where she would get her treatments, she said she would have a full blown out panic attack where she had to pull over and calm herself down and breathe. Like she couldn't even make it home without stopping when she would hit that road because it triggered something. It triggered the memories in her body of what happened to her body when she was going through all of her treatments. And one thing she told me was, so in the midst of a panic attack or an anxiety attack, remember and tell yourself, you got to get through it. You didn't die. You did not pass out. The worst did not happen to you. And so you just got to get through this wave. you might feel bad right here in this moment, but just try to calm down and get through it. And that advice helped me a lot. I had a friend that shared a story with me where he had said he had been robbed at gunpoint. And so, he reacted like any normal person would, I guess, in that type of situation, where he complied, gave them what they wanted so he could just live, you know what I mean? He said he didn't cry, he didn't break down, he was just in survival mode. So he did what was necessary. But the trauma didn't show up right away. It showed up later on. He said that, like, when he would, maybe do events and stuff later on, and if there was a large group of men and at those events, like, he would have a full blown out panic attack. He said his chest would get tight, he feel like he about to pass out, couldn't breathe, just really describing all of the things that I was going through when it came to my different, issues with anxiety. And it took him back to that very moment, that one experience that his body will never forget. And that is exactly how anxiety works. It waits and then it shows up in ways that you don't expect. So let me tell you about some of the things that help heal my anxiety. And full disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I am just somebody who went through some things, and I'm just sharing with you guys what helped me out, and specifically helped me out in natural ways. So one of the number one things that helped me, which may sound very cliche, but baby, it works, was to get air, like fresh air. Go sit outside at least 10, 15, 20 minutes if you can. I mean, that works, shoot, even if you're upset, for, whatever reason you need to calm and release, that fresh air allows you to release certain endorphins, which calms you down. And so fresh air was for real my top. Because even when, I would drive, you just roll the windows down, get some fresh air. When I was the worst, sick and bedridden, I would sit in my chair right next to my window, open up the window. Or if I had to lay in bed, I would just have my sisters and them open up the windows. But that fresh air, helps you release a lot of that anxiety. And of course, I read my scriptures. One of the scriptures that I would read over and over. I mean, like, there was times even when I pulled over on the side of that road, baby, I was quoting that scripture over and over. I think it's 2 Timothy, hold on, let me look at my notes. 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So I repeated that over and over. And you can just go and Google and find some scriptures, to just help you to deal with anxiety. But that's one thing I try to remember and just repeat it over and over when I would deal with anxiety. And also, I just talk to God. I don't know how, and however you perceive God and however you talk to God, I talk to God. I talk to God just like I'm talking to you guys in this camera. And so, good, bad, and ugly. Yep, all the way. Telling him everything, how I felt, whether I thought it was wrong or right, whatever. I'm telling him how I really feel, and what I expect or wanted, to happen. I just wanted to get through it. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why in the world am I dealing with real ailments, and on top of that, here come anxiety creeping his head in the picture? Like, am I not dealing with enough? And here comes anxiety? That's crazy, And another thing, I watch what I ate as well, because I noticed certain foods or certain things that I would eat would trigger the anxiety. And maybe it was more so it was triggering the symptoms, which would trigger the anxiety. But either way, I would watch what I eat. Also, I gave myself time to heal, with not too much pressure, not too much judgment on myself, just the space and time to heal, so like I would take my time to relive a moment. So if being in a crowd was too much, hey, I might have just called it a day. and try it again another day. So I just gave myself that time to really heal and get through anxiety. And I'm not sure if I mentioned exercise or not, but I exercise. Like, exercise helped me a bunch. That is one of the major things that helped me deal with anxiety. I wouldn't just walk, I jogged a lot, and I did that intentionally because I needed an intense workout. I needed something that could pull, drive that tension out my body, that anxiety, and that really helped. So, don't forget to exercise. So in closing, I just want you guys to know or keep in mind that a lot of times when you're dealing with different ailments, sometimes it is worse because of that anxiety. If you have not fully recognized it, try to pay attention to it, and try to separate it from the ailment itself, and do specific things, like ideas of what I gave you, to work out or pray or read your word or go get some air to, kind of help subside that anxiety. Because a lot of times once I got rid of that anxiety, I would feel, much better. Yeah, everything wasn't going away, but I could definitely feel the difference. So before I go, I want to leave you with this. Anxiety will make you believe you are not getting any better, even when you are. It will take what's already hard, sickness, recovery, and magnify it until it feels like it's unbearable. You're not crazy, you're not weak, and you are not alone. Healing from anxiety, especially when you're already dealing with sickness, takes time, honesty, and a lot of patience. Sometimes you're just not going to know where your illness ends and where your anxiety begins. But little by little, clarity will come. So when those feelings start rising up again, when your heart starts racing, your breath starts to shorten, your mind starts spiraling, just remember, you've survived this before. And you will come through it again. You are not your anxiety. It does not own you. Let the truth be louder than fear. You are just still healing. You are still whole. And this is not the end of your story. Be healed.